Logic Pro 10 is not only a recording and editing machine, it's first and foremost a compositional tool. In this movie, we'll explore how to get some incredible sounds with Logic's set of sound generators and how to implement them in instrument tracks. Then we'll look at how to save your favorite combinations in a new concept called a patch. You see here I have a new project. There's one track in there. It's a drummer track. This is just to provide a preset beat as we explore the instruments and the patches. Let's make a new track. We can do Option-Command-N, or we can even just click on this plus button above the track headers. Let's make this a software instrument track, and I'm going to open the details triangle. We'll keep Open Library checked. Click Create. Now we got a new track, defaults to the classic electric piano patch, and open up the library on the left. Let's explore these libraries a little bit. We can use the left and right arrows on our keyboard to navigate them. As we move around, I can play some notes on my MIDI keyboard, and each time we load up a patch, for example, 70s Funk Clav, and I'm just got my left hand on the up and down arrows and my right hand on the keyboard, and I'm just sort of navigating around these different patches, changing the patch and playing them and auditioning them. Let's try guitars. And up here I've got orchestral, so I can see what a French horn solo sounds like. Let's go down to synthesizer, and let's choose lead, and let's choose 70s analog lead. This is one of my favorite patches. So a patch contains the instrument, effects, and routing settings that control the sound of a track. The libraries, as you've seen, contain tons of already made and incredible sounding patches. I highly suggest you take the time to play and listen to all these combinations. But right now I want to take the time to deconstruct a patch so you can see what makes one up, and then we'll build a patch back up from scratch and we can see how to make our own. Here we have the 70s analog lead patch. If we close the library, so this button on the very left of the main window, we can see our track inspector, it's been loaded up with a whole bunch of stuff. At the top we see the name 70s analog lead. This is called a channel strip setting. You might be familiar with channel strips if you're a Logic 8 or Logic 9 user. This was the old way to store a preset in a track. In fact, if you open up this channel strip window, you can see there's all the legacy patches from earlier versions of Logic. So they didn't lose any of those. They're still here. But as you see, the concept of a patch is an even cooler way to load up a sound. Moving down from the channel strips, we have retro synth. That's the actual software instrument that we're playing in this track. As we mouse over the retro synth, you'll notice that if our mouse is on the left of the block, we get a power button. This is where we can turn the synthesizer on and off or bypass it. If I mouse in the middle of the retro synth, I can open up the synthesizer itself. So one click here, and that opens our retro synth software instrument. This is a new instrument in Logic Pro 10. I'll close this window, and now if you notice on the right-hand side of this little block here, I can go in here and reassign a different software instrument to the track. So in the Logic Pro 10 tracks, all of your plugin windows follow this format where it depends on where geographically your mouse is to do different things to the inserts. As we move down below the retro synth, where our software instrument is, we have some audio inserts. This channel EQ is a real-time insert affecting the sound of the instrument as it flows through the instrument channel. Again, if I click in the middle of the channel EQ, it'll open the actual plugin window, and if I click on the left of it, I can turn it off, and the right of it, I could reassign a different EQ or a different plugin. By the way, the channel EQ you have inserted on a track shows up as a quick view up here. This is an actual quick view of this EQ shape. I'll make a more drastic shape so we can actually see a little better. If I make a high-pass filter here, you can see it follows that shape up here. So that just gives you a quick visual graphic view of what your first channel EQ is doing on any track. And below that, we've got the tape delay. This is just an echo effect on the track itself. Now below the real-time inserts, also stored in the patch, we have some sends. And this is one thing that really sets patches apart from the legacy channel strips, that the patch also stores mixer routing and processing. That's what these two bus objects are doing. They're called effect sends. They're basically sending the signal from this track over an internal mix connection called a bus to another auxiliary track that has a reverb effect on it. This is a studio standard method, and it's a very powerful way of using processing like reverb on tracks. If I hit Command 2 to open the mixer window, we can see this a little better. I've got the two buses on this track sending to these auxiliary tracks. These auxiliary tracks are the destination for these sends. I can tell they're auxiliary tracks because they have the little yellow dial icon in the track. That's a giveaway that these are not regular audio tracks, but rather auxiliary tracks. You also will notice that each of these auxiliary tracks has a Space Designer real-time insert on the track itself. This is Logic's awesome reverb. So our 70s analog lead has two buses sending to two auxiliary tracks. Now, I'm going to play the keyboard. I'm going to increase the bus level, and you'll see bus 1 is sending to this first track. You'll see the level increasing in there. Just click right in the middle and pull up or down to change these values. So you can see the level was increasing on the send, and also we could hear the reverb increasing as I played it and turned those knobs up. So all of these settings, the instrument, the real-time inserts, and the bus sends are all included in this patch. Let's further reinforce the patch concept by making one of our own. We'll make a bass instrument. Let's make a new track, and under Software Instrument, but let's not choose Open Library. Again, we're going to make our own patch here. So we'll click Create, and here we just have a generic instrument, not loaded up with any sounds, and we're going to start at the instrument slot. As you can see, when nothing's in there, it's a lot more descriptive about what each of these slots do. And this is the instrument slots. Let's go in here on the right-hand side, and let's choose the ESM monophonic synth. So here's our monophonic synth. If I go in here and play the keyboard, got a pretty cool bass sound, but let's further enhance it. Let's tweak the filter, the cutoff filter a little bit. Make it a little more biting, and let's turn the glide down a little bit. All right, so we dialed that in a little bit. Now the next thing we're going to do is load up some audio effects. So let's add a little echo. We'll go in here and we'll choose delay, and we'll choose stereo delay. And in here, in the stereo delay, this will add an echo. So here it's echoing back and forth. But we'll tweak this a little bit. Let's turn the output mix actually down to 10% for the left and right. One other thing I wanted to do is just turn the feedback down a little bit. Now we'll add one more effect. So clicking right below the stereo delay, if I click in there, I can choose another effect, and we're going to do a auto filter. And now here in the auto filter, we're just going to use one of the presets from the auto filter. Let's choose Always Rising Filter. You can hear the sound sort of rising up and the filter opening up in that audio effect. As you heard when I played back the track with the new auto filter, it clipped a little bit, and I just cleared the clips by clicking right in the windows here, but we probably want to take care of that. So let's go in here and we can just kind of decrease the main output a little bit, just so we don't get it to overload our output. And let's see if that's better. Perfect, yeah, so now it's no longer clipping the output. It's all part of our patch, so we're just dialing in all these settings to get the perfect sound. And now we've got a pretty cool patch of our own, so let's save it so we can use it in any Logic project from here on out. Now we want to make sure we have just the track selected itself. You don't want any of the plugin windows selected. And when we do that, go into the library, and we can choose Save. And this will save it as a .patch file. And it automatically directs you to the patches folder, which is where you're going to want to save your patches if you want to access them from other projects. You can alternatively save them on a hard drive to bring them to another studio and stuff like that, but for right now, we'll save it here and it'll be accessible from all of our Logic projects on this computer. So let's call it My Bass, And again, it's a .patch file. We'll hit save. And now we have a section of all of our patches that we were looking at before, but they're called user patches. And there's our My Bass patch. Notice the track got auto-named My Bass too. So if I select this track and click delete and close the library, and maybe in another project or later on I say, oh, I love that bass sound I made. It's as simple as going in and making a new software instrument track. I can say open library, click create, and I can navigate to user patches, and hey, there's our bass patch. And again, this will be available in any other Logic project we work in on this computer. So now we've seen the ins and outs of making patches and what goes into each patch. We're going to explore patches more in the next few movies of the Making Music with Logic chapter.